If you grew up in the early 2000s, there's a good chance that you remember one of these virtual worlds. There's also a chance that you're starting to look a little bit like this, so maybe check your posture, Grandma. Club Penguin was my very first introduction to digital third spaces. It was also my introduction to endless subscriptions, a thing that I'm still having the joy of dealing with to this very day. I wanted to show off one of the physical membership cards here, but these things are still selling for real money on eBay, which is crazy. The site's not active anymore, people. These are only worth their weight in plastic. In fact, it's been almost a decade since the game was shut down. Thankfully, though, there are third-party hostings of the game still up, so you can play, and they even let you have a membership for free, so you can wear clothes without having to pay real money. This is Club Penguin Island, not to be confused with Club Penguin Island. Today, we're going to be looking at the life of an average penguin here and what it would be like, whether or not this island is a functioning society, and if there's any little secrets that we might uncover along the way. How should we evaluate this? Well, I think let's take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. No, not that one. This is the real one. I think this is a great basis for figuring out what you need in a functioning society. At the bottom, you have your most basic needs of survival: food, water, and shelter. This would take the form of needing housing and access to food, and if both of these aren't provided for free, then you would also need access to employment in order to purchase these things. Then you've got safety needs. This would extend to housing again, but also some sort of justice system or social accountability. Next, of course, is actual social needs, a way to meet other people or penguins, the ability to form new social relationships, and spaces to maintain existing ones. Finally, we have esteem needs and self-actualization, which I think can kind of be clumped together in this case. You need something to aspire to, and you need things that fulfill whatever drive it is in you that makes you who you are. Let's start out with housing. We often talk about houses on this channel, as referenced by these videos. Go to www.youtube.com/heycowboy to watch. Ask your parents' permission before going online. To start out in Club Penguin, everyone gets an igloo. I suppose on a large glacial island, a house made out of ice is not exactly the most valuable thing, but I don't really see a point in complaining when it's provided to you at absolutely no cost. Now, the upgrades in furniture do cost money, but at the base, this need is just outright met for everyone. You have somewhere to keep out of the cold. Also, along with basic needs, penguins can have all the water in the world out in the ocean. Shout out to the frickin' superorbital gland, am I right? The final need, of course, is food. Penguins primarily eat fish, shrimp, and squid. Ocean critters. You can catch fish for free and for profit in the ski lodge, and the pizza parlor offers pies with penguin perfect toppings. There's also the coffee shop if you're feeling a little bit indulgent. So it looks like the base here is especially solid. We're off to a good start with all of those basic needs. Now, there is the question of whether or not you have to actually pay for any of this food. There isn't any function in the game for purchasing food, or for eating it for that matter, but I suppose they do eat and are just real shy about it. Among these normal food items, there's often fun party foods available during events and concessions over at the sports arena. Theoretically, if you have to pay for all this food, you'll be okay, as there seems to be really no shortage of ways to earn money on Club Penguin Island. Perhaps the sign of a thriving economy. You can make money from playing simple games like Connect 4, Mancala, even arcade games, or playing outside by competing in sledding competitions, tubing, rescuing Puffles, and so much more. For now, I don't think you really need to worry about food here. If you are hungry, there is food to be had. So I would say our foundation for life here on Club Penguin Island is super solid. You're able to have all these base needs met. You're gonna be comfortable, you're gonna be fed, you're not gonna go thirsty, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's somewhere that you can thrive. Just because you won't immediately die here doesn't mean it's gonna be a spot you're especially happy in. Something I'm sure many people have come to discover since they first logged on to Club Penguin Island, bumping Owl City and sipping on a Sobe. Beyond that basic survival, you need to be safe where you live. Both physically and I would also say mentally. Beyond just knowing that you won't be harmed where you live, there is a need for psychological safety and feeling like you're going to be able to continue to live in this place. Having your basic rights be upheld is pretty important. Club Penguin Island doesn't have any sort of police force or social workers present here, but there is the PSA, the Penguin Secret Agency, which seems to be kind of similar to the FBI. Or for any other kind of internal investigative unit on a country that's focused on larger federal issues rather than everyday civil and criminal incidents. Possibly related to the PSA though, there is a sort of nebulous social policing presence here on the island in the form of bans. Bans could range in time or be permanent depending on the severity of the infraction. Mainly it's for policing language and cheating, and this could be something done automatically, though some of the more creative utilizations of linguistics probably need to be deciphered by a human. Now, whether or not this is enough to satisfy your safety needs, or if you view this as being a fascist system overreaching, is open to personal interpretation. Social needs like the need for friends, connection, and a sense of culture are the next step up on the pyramid. Stop calling me! Club Penguin is an inherently social game. The world consists mostly of third spaces that you can hang out in with other penguins, without the need to spend any money. In fact, many of the ways that you can interact with people are actually monetarily incentivized. This island was built with the social aspect at the very forefront. It's probably before all other things a social experience. I mean, duh. And so it achieves most at being a society that promotes friendship and a certain amount of community. You're even able to befriend other penguins, and growing up, this was my first way of casually interacting with my friends after school if we weren't at each other's houses. We'd be like, all right, at 4 o'clock tonight, we're both gonna go online on this server, and we'd mostly chat and walk around. It was very kind of primitive, but it was a fun experience and a cool thing to do before everyone had cell phones. People can host parties in their igloos, and people will sometimes create different themes or even games inside their igloos revolving around different things that they've dreamed up. This place is great. You could really just hang out and chill here for a bunch of your childhood, and I'm sure you'll grow up to be a very well-adjusted adult. And as a well-adjusted person, if you manage to get all those other needs met, you're gonna need some self-fulfillment. You need things that are gonna motivate you. For many people, this comes in the form of their jobs, or the things that they buy from their jobs. Most of us are going to spend the majority of our lives sleeping or working. In an ideal life, you like what you have to do for work. And being somewhere that has numerous different fulfilling options for what you can do for work is better than being somewhere where your only choice is to work whatever job you can or starve. The ways you can actually work in Club Penguin are pretty diverse. You can work in food service, you can work in sports or entertainment. I mean, even working in a mine here is a good thing. You're just grooving. The question of whether or not this place meets that final need is down to you, and whether or not you can find something here that is fulfilling. Will you feel a rush of accomplishment from unlocking stamps, beating progressively harder stages in a game, earning new belts at the dojo, or just buying clothing at the store and furniture to decorate your igloo? Maybe just hanging out with people is enough for you. There also is the Club Penguin newspaper, so theoretically you could participate in that. In fact, there were fan submissions back in the day. They added a comic section, and I remember growing up thinking that this would be absolutely one of the coolest things to do. Like, I really liked drawing as a kid, so the thought of having something that I made be on one of my favorite games was super exciting. My problem is I never submitted one because I could never figure out how to draw a penguin. They never looked quite right. So it seems like Club Penguin may just be the perfect utopian society. Well, not exactly. See, while this place meets a lot of different needs and seems like a very normal place on the surface, it's kinda effed in the A. That's foul in the Antarctic. See, everyone here is given the privilege to work and the ability to make money. You're given an igloo for free, but if you want to actually be able to spend that money, furnish that igloo, or even just walk around with clothes on your body, you gotta pay up, because you will not be given the privilege to do any of those things unless you have a membership.
Yeah, man, you wish you had one. You can get them anywhere from America. It's awesome, yeah. You get like a month for $5.95. No, you can't see that, but it's pretty cool. So yeah, you should go get one if you want membership.
You gotta fork up $6 a month for that, or later $8 after they raised it. Now, there were some clothing items that could be worn all the time by the common folk, but you usually had to get these at events. I think later they maybe added some that everyone could purchase. Otherwise, mostly clothing was only a thing you could wear as a member. If you had a membership and didn't renew it, you'd suddenly be stripped and dripless. Flightless bird indeed. What kind of insane social policing is this? I mean, normally you'd be getting in trouble for not wearing clothes. I suppose penguins are different, but these are post-industrial revolution penguins. These birds have clearly developed some sort of social shaming. I mean, they made wigs for God's sakes, which does beg the question of whether or not humans are a thing that the penguins are aware of, but we're not getting into that. Come on, let's refocus here. You can get your whole Iggy remodeled as soon as that card declines. They pack away all the furniture, they undo all the renovations. This is whack. Also, impressively efficient. The hidden career path here on the island is in the trades. Someone has got to constantly be hired for all these renovations and transformations, not to mention the additions getting added on for all the different events taking place on the island. This is like a set designer, stage crew enthusiast's dream job. It does make a lot of sense that Disney ended up buying this place. Jesus, for $350 million? Which would have doubled if they met target goals? Oh my God. Man, those had to have been some impossible goals, because for $350 million, I mean, I would, frankly, I would. Okay, clearly there's some things that I'm not allowed to talk about here, but there's one last thing that we do need to discuss, and it's big, okay? Come on, there's somewhere we can go talk. All right, thank you for joining me here. Here's the thing. I think I figured out the deal with Club Penguin Island. The whole reason the island exists, the reason it is the way it is. Do you remember how I mentioned the Penguin Secret Agency earlier? Well, the PSA, or EPF, depending on where you are in time, are a specifically trained group of field operatives that have several missions on the island. Many of these involve the environmental terrorist Herbert P. Bear. But I would also say that they also have another mission not discussed with the lower level agents. When you walk into the PSA, you will notice that there are screens, a lot of screens. The entire island is covered in cameras, always monitoring, always watching. How do you get bans handed out so easily? Come on, think about it. This entire place is under constant surveillance. You know, maybe not such a bad thing when it comes to stopping minor infractions, but what happens when you become an enemy of the penguin state? Maybe you start speaking your mind, saying you think memberships should be a little bit more affordable. Well, if you become a problem, they'll know your every move. In fact, I'd go so far as to say the whole point of this place is to draw people in to make mistakes. Why do you think there's always a party in someone's Iggy? The whole thing is a ploy to get penguins to come party, eat a bunch of hot dogs, and do stupid things so that they can have a recording to either blackmail you in the future or just outright make you vanish. In fact, I think it goes even deeper. At one point in time, Herbert attacks the agency and essentially destroys the location by setting off an improvised popcorn explosive. But I would say that the PSA either let this happen on purpose or went so far as to make sure that it did happen. Part of Herbert's plan involves getting a spy phone from one of the agents, this guy, a supposed fool. But what if it's all just an act? Play dumb so that they don't suspect that you did this on purpose. Or, maybe he is that dumb, but this guy set it up, knowing that he would make the mistake so that the explosion would go off. Oh, but why would they do this? What would someone gain from knowingly letting a tragedy occur? What possible benefit could something like that have? Think about it. Money. After this occurs, they have to rebuild the facility, and now the agency is given more credibility to exist, a greater need for funding, and the ability to expand and further reach its claws into the everyday average penguin folk who just want to party and go snowboarding and play card jitsu. Also, being able to wear clothes without paying a monthly fee. That would be nice. Whew. I lost track of how I got in here. Also, now that I think about it, if Club Penguin was a entrapment facility, handing out bans kind of willy-nilly just for saying like a bad word, that doesn't really make sense. So what really would they even be trapping people for? Well, I guess they came here for nothing. But thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more content coming out this year. I've got a lot of video ideas. If you want to support the channel, I have a Patreon. There's going to be behind the scenes of how I made this video, some of the effects, or if you just miss having a monthly membership to Club Penguin, maybe that can fill the void. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and waddle on.